Hello, hello.
We are recording.
Jared, you got yours on?
Yeah, the language that.
Yes.
Thank you all for giving me a few minutes to get here on I-4. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Had a
We already
cons-
reached an agreement.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I had a consultation that ran a little longer than on the phone than expected.
So I'd like to kind of open up here, if that's all right.
Sure, sure.
Okay. So we took the concerns from the last meeting. I think we heard you there, and we went back to the bargaining team and discussed a lot of those. And I think we have a contract, hopefully, that can get this moving forward. So we're prepared to present a full contract today.
Okay.
There's been some significant concessions about some of the very items that I think were very important to the folks that were at the table last time. Obviously, the biggest one that we're trying to address and address quickly is pay. We have an average of over 10% increase in wages that we're proposing. That also includes an increase in specialty pay. As it relates to discipline, we heard you there. So there are going to be some concessions there. We are going to go to a binding arbitration. That would be limited to termination. There will be a just cause standard. There's also going to be a Bill of Rights recognized therein. There'll be a timeline for bringing something like that forward, but the Bill of Rights will be recognized in the contract. Retirement benefits, insurance, these are the things that you guys expect. Those aren't changing. Those are going to continue. We heard you on the increase for sergeant promotion, having some increase in the requirements there. We've considered doing an AA as an additional requirement for somebody who's being considered for sergeant promotion. And we also have basically accepted the concept of the call-out wheel to make sure that the OT is being fairly distributed. So we have all that in our agreements that we're proposing here today. And I know it's going to be a lot. So if that's something that we could sit here and pick it apart, or it could be something that if you guys want to go back and take a look at it, we can do it that way too. But I'm going to pass these out. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Yes. Pass it on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
While you're looking through that, one of the thoughts that we had when we meet next is to actually get, I guess we could put it on that screen maybe, like a computer, and have the agreement on a Word document and go through it article by article and just see if we can't hammer it out. So a lot of these articles are, they're not numbered, at least in the title, the ones that you gave to us. And as Matt said, we've made some pretty significant concessions in an attempt to try to get this on. So, Gary, I don't know how you want to proceed on this, but it's going to take you a while to look through it. You guys want to do that and set another time for us to meet for maybe a lengthier session and put all this on a computer and try to hammer it out? It's up to you, whatever you want to do.
Would you guys like to take about maybe 10 minutes, either in this room or another room, and we can kind of thumb through it quickly, and then see if there's specific ones we want to ask questions about, if there's something we want to counter-propose, that'll give us a chance to put something together to counter-propose between now and that next meeting. I don't know if, is the idea maybe still meet before the end of the year?
Yeah, like next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next week.
Yeah. We're
Okay.
about trying to get
That's
this
fine.
thing rolling.
I think that's
Maybe
fine.
even Monday if you all are available.
Here next week.
Are you able to email us to us? Sure.
He's asking about Monday. Would that work for everybody, or?
You can do that.
That might be short notice to go through all this.
Okay.
I gotta try to schedule a meeting with
Yeah. Okay.
Like
Tuesday
end of
or
next
Wednesday?
week,
Yeah. Or end of next next Thursday.
Thursday. Oh, next Thursday.
Yeah. Now,
Let me see.
after Wednesday through Friday.
Do you have the? Oh, you're busy next Thursday.
Yeah,
The
that's
interviews
something.
on Wednesday. You said you're busy Thursday.
Yeah, we got a port on.
Now-
do the following Monday if you need some time. Monday the
At the
7th.
South Daytona.
Yeah, in our IA in the morning.
Yes. So what day was that?
Monday the 7th.
Monday the 7th?
Monday the 7th.
Monday the 7th?
Real quick.
Yeah.
Isn't
You around?
Isn't that also D-Day? Or,
Yeah,
no, that's
Pearl
Pearl Harbor Day.
Pearl Harbor
Pearl
Day.
Harbor Day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
we get some.
available except for 12.
What I was thinking was we could,
Yeah,
I
we
know
could
we
meet
schedule our sessions for short periods of time, but we could schedule it for a longer period of time. And like I said, get
Yeah.
a computer together, pull up the
Okay.
articles, see if we can just handle the whole thing out.
Monday the 7th, it works for me. How about you guys?
It's good for me.
My schedule's with you, so.
Okay. We could do Monday the 7th.
All right, let's just schedule it then. Start in the morning or?
Yes, we could.
Yeah, we're on days now.
I mean, how
so
many, I was gonna say, you guys work nights, any of you?
We're on days.
Okay. I'm gonna say 10 o'clock, I don't know.
Yeah.
Go till probably lunchtime, or I mean, I would think in a couple hours, we might be able to get through it, 2 or 3, or 9:30.
You guys call it. I know your schedule's
Let's say,
What's best for you,
9:30.
Jerry?
You wanna say 9:30?
Sometime in the morning, it gives us plenty of time. I'll wake up, but
Okay.
don't,
How about 9:30?
9:30?
Yeah.
9:30 it is? Can we use this room again?
I will check the calendar.
Make a note of that.
Yeah, if we can't do it here, we can do it at Vienna.
December 7th, 9:30.
And then,
I'll just put it for as long as we can
okay.
stand each other.
And then maybe just for today, like I said, if we could just have maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that way, if we answer questions verbally while you're here, that might be easier than trying to send you emails and say, hey, we don't understand this point. So it'll help us on our side to be
Before you break, I know you'll have a question about the, what Matt talked about in terms of our session on the
arbitration.
arbitration. We have a separate article. We have two. One is a grievance procedure that does not pertain to discipline. And then there's a second separate article that's on discipline action. It has a separate process for discipline.
Okay.
As Matt said, it contains a just cause standard. It's confined determinations. It does have a provision in there about us agreeing to comport to the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. But we do have a requirement in there that it be brought up. Any allegations about
Okay.
a violation of that law needs to be brought up. We said step 2,
Step 2.
so we don't get ambushed with it.
Is the step 2 under the disciplinary action?
Yes.
Okay.
Under three. This one again?
I think it's under disciplinary. Well,
We've, Gary, this is something that is a bit unique. I don't know if this would fly, but in an effort to try to have an arbitrator have some semblance of evidentiary standards,
Mhm.
we put in there that the arbitrator would be bound by at least chapter 120
Okay.
of Florida statutes, so that there's, like I said, some semblance of evidentiary standards and procedure.
yes.
We have, there was another one in here. What we want to incorporate in here is in terms of our past practices, because we know that gets thrown up all the time in terms of how we treated others in the past. We have a section there that says that an arbitrator can take into consideration prior disciplinary actions for substantially similar conduct. But we've confined it to this particular police chief's administration, not previous ones. We can talk back and forth about that, but we're trying to not have them go back to the beginning of time and have us be bound by what some other police chief felt was the appropriate discipline for certain things. Those were just things that I knew you would have questions about.
Yeah, Gary, as a clarification, just thumb through this, at the end of the grievance and arbitration article, it's not this one, the typical one.
Okay.
The previous language is still in there, but we did the intent to take your guys' language about the 50-50. So That's not reflected in here, I apologize, but that would be.
Oh, splitting the cost.
City that split the cost.
Yeah, we moved away
For
from those
both
guys off.
processes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we're fine with
That's
that.
fair.
Yeah. I do have a question because I obviously haven't read it yet, but the just cause provision, are you saying, is that only applicable in a termination case?
We've only made it applicable to termination cases, yes. Disciplinary action short of termination under our proposal would be handled on civil service law, whatever those provisions are in civil service.
Under the city's civil service rules?
Yes.
I think this city has, I could be wrong if we're mixing it with another agency over here, but I thought the city's civil service rules here did have just cause.
Fine.
I believe it does, I'll verify.
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty
Okay.
sure it does.
So notwithstanding that it's not in the article for discipline other than termination, if it reverts to the city service rules, and if the city service rules have just cause, for discipline short of termination, it would still apply.
It would, but it'd be a different process.
Yeah, okay. The person would proceed under the city service rules if they wanted to challenge it, as opposed to arbitration.
Correct.
Okay.
Anyway, those were just some of the things that I needed some questions about.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll go down to the conference room.
Okay.
Let us know.
And Wayne, the other chapter, you know, 20, there's it's 9 something that deals with the review of an arbitration award.
Yeah, I think I've got something in there that is subject to the floor.
100 and something, it says the limited basis for which a court could set aside a arbitration award, like,
Limited is the word.
yeah, it's very limited. There's 3.
All right, just give us a text.
All right. Does somebody have a way to, yeah, which room will y'all be in for to send somebody to knock on the door?
All right.
We'll go back on. Let's go back on.
Are you got conference room downstairs?
Okay.
Go back on. Okay.
We can get it.
All right, so I just for the, so we can tell the record what's going on here, so we're gonna go ahead and pause the recording. It's
Okay.
2:20 PM and we're going off the record and we'll convene in caucus.
So give us 15 or 20 minutes and then we'll send contact one of you some way. It'll come down. What's that? We'll text you. Okay. y'all were gone, and it was so quiet in there, but when that thing's on, it's loud.
It's not doing its job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine what it must be like in the summer then.
All right, turn it off.
So let us know, do we need to wait for,
Yeah, let's wait
Heather?
until actually, no, I want to go to.
oh, there she is.
You're in trouble, yeah.
Record. All right, we're back on.
All right, 2:50 PM, we're back
Okay.
on recording.
30 minutes, but we still were only able to kind of scratch the surface. A few things that we do want to ask about while we're all here though today that'll help us on our side in preparing for the December 7th meeting. First of all, is this a 1 or a 3-year contract?
The 1 year.
1 year, okay.
There's
And is there a suggestion on, okay,
We are open to something more than a 1-year agreement. I think that's fair to say. Whether that's a full multi-year agreement or one with reopeners, we can talk about that.
okay. But as presented right now, this is a 1 year?
Yes.
Okay. The other question we had on, I'm going to be jumping around, and since they don't have page numbers, I'll do my best to direct us, but that leads to a first question though, Jamie. Is there a red line version? Because we brought a red line version last time, and this one doesn't have page numbers either. If you could send it to us in Word so that we could work on it and try to compare it with our own and send back I think our idea might be to send it that morning, or the Friday before, maybe our red line response, and then be able to sit down with you, and then we can go through them both on
So you want it in Word and you want it with page numbers?
Word, page numbers, and preferably a red line if you have
Well,
one.
red lines, because we didn't necessarily go off of either the old PDA agreement or your proposal. A lot of it is from there. but,
Okay.
It's hard to
Okay.
say what was crossed out and underlined and all
So there's
that.
not, okay, so.
Yeah. We can add the page numbers and give it to you by Word so that you can compare it to yours and do
Okay.
it that way. That's fair to say, I think. isn't it?
Couple other questions, and again, these ones. Notice that holidays, it looks like MLK is being illustrated that the officers would get bank time for it, but it wouldn't be a holiday. And Veterans Day is not referenced. You guys know that the lieutenants, I believe, got both of those days, right, as actual holidays.
No, Martin Luther King Day is a holiday, and then Veterans Day is 12 hours in the back.
This is the current practice.
Okay, because this said something about MLK, the city will be open. I believe it says in your proposal.
So that's what we currently do.
So the city is going to be open for MLK going
So
forward?
it's currently open
yes.
now.
Okay,
But it would, just for clarity's sake, this then would be different than what the lieutenant's agreement is.
Those are kind of negotiated.
all right.
So that's a yes? I'm sorry, I
Okay.
can't hear you. Yeah, it would be different. Okay, just making sure.
Vehicle use policy, right now I'm told that the officers are having to use their own vehicle while on light duty. And that's a concern. I don't think it was addressed in here. I think we did talk about it in our version. And we want to know, was that intentionally that it wasn't addressed, or is it something that we can put back in our red line version, or is it already been determined?
What was that again? I'm sorry.
This is use of
Private vehicle.
private vehicle while on light duty.
On light duty? It was so how does that work?
Yeah, I think when
They're
we talked
injured,
about
they
it
work the
last
front
time.
desk, so they work an adjusted schedule.
So you just drive your regular car?
So they drive their
Yeah,
car there.
They can't drive their patrol car when they're on light
We
duty.
were trying to
And that's-
figure out where it was applicable, and then we realized our light duty
We
staff
actually have one of our
are
guys do
required
that.
to drive their personal vehicles. They're not provided an unmarked city vehicle to drive. So,
I guess one officer got in an accident or
yeah,
something, right?
No,
we had an option.
we have in the old contract, what we proposed was an
accident.
authorized use of private automobile.
Oh,
We
right.
needed something that
Struck
would
through
stay
it.
covered.
It has the insurance
We had a
requirement.
question mark on it.
This is where I think there was something you said, Drew, about the applicable limits, the 100, 300, in our last session.
Yeah, so last
Matt.
time we talked about it, Matt,
That comes Drew? I'm dealing with a Drew in another city, I'm sorry. Who's the
last time
city?
we asked him,
Matt.
does this happen? You know,
Oh,
and it
okay.
was like, no, we
Yeah,
don't, so
it's been
there's
brought-
no reason for it to be in the
It was brought to our attention
Yeah, Matt,
since then, but
Yeah.
light duty, you do have to drive your personal vehicle because you're not allowed to be in a marked patrol car.
Yeah, Matt, it was our Article 14 that we talked about when we were here
Yeah.
last time, I guess it was November 3rd.
So okay, we did exactly what you said last time. We're like, we don't see where that would happen. Now we. it's
Sure, I'm
our
just explaining
attention
why,
Yeah.
Okay.
why
Yeah.
it wasn't in our
Okay.
proposal.
Yeah,
Okay.
got it.
Again, and one other one, again, I'm just jumping around on our quick review. Bulletin board, it kind of may sound like a silly or not big deal. I think Wayne asked, our bulletin board.
Yeah, and I continue to question why we even have that. But if you guys want to talk about putting it back in the contract in some form or another, we're glad to do it.
We would like to, because otherwise that means we need to ask if we can use city email for union business and or communicating information. And we understand that the current lieutenants union, which is still the PBA, is using the bulletin board and has their literature on it, announcing meetings and this, that, and the other. So we had it in before. The union feels like they would like to keep the bulletin board.
Put it in your
Okay.
response to us. We'll pull it up and
Okay.
talk through it.
We
I
did.
just, for the life of me, can't still figure out why we're pulling towards that. That's all right.
There was mention of now an associate's degree required for promotion. I think that's a new, something new that caught our eye because it hasn't been in the last contract. So we don't have to talk about it today, but obviously I think we're going to reply on that. I think that collectively on our side of the table, these, see, there's no lady officers here today, but these men and the women who do this job tell me that they don't see the basis for having an associate's degree. Am I right? You guys want to
Absolutely.
comment on that?
Yeah, the comments that we got from the general meeting we had, they wanted more experience on the road. So it's not so much classroom experience.
I thought the proposal was,
So it was 7 years, moving it from 4 to
okay, I thought it was like a 5 with a bachelor's. I thought there was a degree.
Yeah, there was. Oh, is that what the associate's degree is? It's so the
It's not
5 years
bachelor's.
with an associate's degree?
No, but I just, we.
It was 7 years without any degree, or 5 years with the bachelor's degree. So you get promote earlier if you have a degree.
Got it.
But we never had that before.
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
was
no,
proposed.
I get that.
Is that what you're proposing?
Oh, yes,
is
it was
7
our
years,
Article
but-
26, yeah.
I guess-
Yeah, you guys proposed 7 years or 5
Or
years
5 with a bachelor's.
Is that what you're proposing instead of a bachelor's and associate?
I think it was 4 years in a bachelor's, or I'm sorry, associates. So it came down because, I think it's a pool issue, part of it, if you.
Okay. So you're talking about a
if you
2-year
require a
AA degree?
bachelor, yeah.
Okay.
So you're
The
talking
AA
about
is a little
4
bit easier
years.
to get there, so
And so without a degree, how many years do you need?
I guess it didn't have, I don't think it
Yeah, it doesn't have
differentiated.
that.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, that's something we can talk about.
All right, we may,
So that one's,
we may counter with
Okay.
something similar to what we previously proposed.
yeah,
It may be 7 years or 5 years with an associate's
Some
degree,
sort of-
which
okay.
would be, that might be something we could consider coming back with.
Yeah,
got
Okay, let me
so
circle.
you wouldn't absolutely have to have the degree.
That's more reasonable.
I got you.
Yeah.
So it's,
There's a
got
lot of the guys go to
Experience
the
plus-
academy to do it, going
College.
to college.
Yeah.
You know,
Start with not part-time guys, that's 9 months.
some guys go to college and then go to the academy.
Some,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, yeah, so you guys get a full 4-year degree and then
Or law school.
Like you, right? Thinking about it,
That's
right?
what Matt did too.
Yeah, Matt did
Went to
too.
law school in the academy.
Oh, you did both?
I went after.
After the academy, okay. We did notice on the alcohol test policy, just asking a question, It doesn't appear there's any documentation required, I guess, for the reasonable suspicion. Again, this is something we notice or these guys notice is different from the lieutenant's policy, which adopted their same policy with no changes. It looks like there's now being proposed some changes to the alcohol policy as it relates to the officers below the rank of lieutenant. We want to know, is that buy-in?
Here's some background on that. So, the old, I should say, PBA contract has a drug and alcohol article that, when we all read it, we had concerns about it. It just seems to be very antiquated and hard to follow and read. It doesn't have a lot of current stuff in it, like medical marijuana and CBD oil and stuff that we get questions about a lot. We needed to. So rather than go underline and strike throughs with it, we just crafted this as a separate. And you're right, it's all brand new. I shouldn't say it's brand new. It reflects a lot of what's in the old contract, but has what I think being more current and up to date and readable language. So if there's things in this that you either don't like or you want to add, like the
Documentation.
we're glad to talk about it.
Okay.
We just think, my theory on this, I don't know about you, but my theory on this is, if you're an officer and you guys, you ought to be able to pick this up and read it fairly quickly and understand the parameters pretty easily. You can't do this. Even if you have a medical marijuana prescription, that's still going to be a problem. Don't use these CBD products, prescription drugs, stuff like that you ought to really know what the parameters are. So this was our attempt to kind of streamline it, make it more simple and all that. But if there's things in here that you want to talk about like that, we're glad to.
Okay. I think
Just some background.
Sure, I appreciate that. No, and you're right. Things have changed now with CBD oil and all of that entering into the society.
It really has.
I think you might see from us, one of the bigger things is just we want there to be, with reasonable suspicion, some form of documentation. I think that's one thing Brett noticed that we have in some of the other ones.
We're glad to talk about that.
Okay.
And it's understood.
And then I just want to clarify again on the just cause. As it's presented today, just cause an arbitration would occur, just cause would apply, an arbitration would apply in termination cases only. For less than termination, no arbitration, but the civil service rules apply. And Jamie, you've confirmed you haven't found yet just cause in the civil service rules for Port Orange.
The civil service rules, we were just looking at them while you guys were chatting. It's a bit confusing because it says that for probationary employees, that they could be let go for any reason. And it says this is cause. It's either cause or just cause. Yeah. So it says it makes reference to you being a probationary employee and being able to be let go without cause. Or just cause, which implies that once you become a regular employee, you have to have cause in order to be terminated.
That's exactly the argument.
Dismissals, there's reference to just cause in dismissals, but I was looking for understanding.
So if the corollary is true, and it's interesting you raise that, Greg, and that's the very issue that we have in DeLand, and we just wrapped up an arbitration where their CBA actually says probationary officers can be separated without cause. So we're arguing, we have to the arbitrator that means the opposite must be true. Otherwise, why would you say it that way in a contract? So.
Did you use that exclusio unis?
I didn't use the Latin.
phrase?
I did not use the Latin phrase. I
you
promise. I did. Although we saw some of that in our earlier arbitration, didn't we? Anyway, but if we I'm just thinking outside the box, and obviously we're going to send you back something. But maybe even if it's an MOU or an MOA that says something like, based on that civil service rules for issues other than termination, we all agree that by that verbiage, that means just cause applies to discipline short of termination. I'm not saying you have to answer to that today. But
give us a proposal on that. We'll look at that.
I think to follow what we said here on November 2nd, our last meeting, our goal is not to be difficult, but just, we want the officers to feel at least reasonably comfortable in the performance of their duties, that if they get accused, they're going to have at least a fair opportunity where some sort of standard would have to apply, as opposed to it just being entirely subjective in the hands of somebody, a decision maker, that they would have to have some sort of benchmark to meet to say, all right, does this meet a level of cause based on the totality of circumstances, right? That's kind of what we're aiming
We
at.
don't disagree with that. To be
Okay.
honest with you. That's why we proposed what we did.
Okay.
We want a fair process too, and we want everybody to have
Yeah.
some protections, but.
Because obviously what goes into hiring an officer, paying for the training, and then to let somebody go, it's not good for the city either, because then you're back at square one, you got to go hire somebody again and start over. So those are really the main things that jumped out at us just from a quick review. Obviously the wages, we're gonna, want to come back to you about that. Our concerns are based on our studies we've seen from the IOPA studies from the Home Office. I think 1950 starting is still going to put Port Orange in a little bit of in a difficult position. That's just the starting pay, based on, as you said, Sergeant, the city north of you and the city south of you are both now above that.
A dollar more.
A dollar more.
And I don't know.
Minimum wage to 50.
Yeah, minimum wage, as we know, is our people have voted to start incrementally raising minimum wage over the next 5 years, I guess, $1 per year, something like that. Which I think current minimum wage is $8.55 or something like it. It's going to go to, I think next year it goes to $12 or $11, something like that.
The exact numbers, but
It's going to go up like $2.50 in 1 year, which is going to be crazy. It's going to be a big pill to swallow for everybody. But I guess what we're saying is we want to look at that again. We did notice your pay scale stops at 15 years and then 9 years for sergeants. So obviously the more senior officers in the department are saying, well, wait a second, it means 25. I think it's 25.99 is where it stops right now. Yeah, 25.99 in your current proposal for a 15-year officer. So I guess, does that mean a 16-plus year officer do they cap out at 25.99? Is that right? Okay. I don't know if yeah, they said, she confirmed that's, anybody beyond 15 would still be at 25.99.
Yep.
Okay.
That's accurate.
Okay. I don't know how many officers that impacts in this department at present, but
It's quite a few.
There's actually quite a few.
That are over 15 years.
Yeah.
That's why we try to stretch it out to the 20s.
There's detectives that are over, I mean, I think
Some of them are
four
close to 20.
of the 6 motor
Yeah,
positions, they were all over.
like
that
18,
time.
19 years.
is the city's wage proposal, is this, I'm going to phrase this the right way. Is this your final proposal, or is there, I mean, obviously you have to consider a counter, but I mean, is this the final wage proposal, or are you certainly open to?
We're getting close.
Okay,
How's that?
that's fair. Does
That tell you what you need to know?
Yeah, well, it gives us an idea. Is it, in terms of, are you wedded to the number of years of capping it at 15 and 9, or?
I don't know the answer to that, but we're open to a suggestion on that, but I
Okay.
can't tell you whether we would agree to it. But this is an attempt on our part, to be honest with all you guys. This is an attempt on our part to try to get an agreement quick. This is a real serious proposal. Is it the last final one? No, but we're
Okay.
open to talking about tweaks and stuff, but
Okay.
it's by design an attempt on our part to see if we can't get an agreement this December.
Yes.
You know, so we could get this thing over
Yeah.
with. And that's just as
Okay.
blunt as I can be.
Well, that factors into and when you said you're open, you would like a 3-year contract, you're open to a 3-year contract, obviously that affects our thinking on this particularly. If it's a 1-year contract, obviously that is different. I mean, and we'll,
Yeah, that makes a
impact.
huge difference with that particular.
yeah.
No, we'll talk about a multi-year agreement. That's fine. Yeah.
So-
And, you know, obviously there's a lot of different variations on multi-year agreements. full 3-year contracts, which is the most you can go in a Florida law.
Yeah.
Ones that are 1 year and then reopeners on limited, things, wages only. Each side picks 2, whatever. I mean, we're not foreclosing any of that stuff.
Okay.
With and I can't stress this enough. We came in here today with the idea that let's see if we can't put out a real serious proposal that encompasses everything that we're wanting to talk about and see if we can't get an agreement and get it fairly soon so that we don't beat around the bush.
Okay, on the wage.
Fair enough?
That's fair enough.
Okay.
Definitely.
What you may hear.
You guys have never negotiated with me. He has. But
Yeah.
I try to be as transparent as I can.
I will say, Wayne, you brought out in our new Smyrna negotiations, you came with a final, what you really said was a kind of a final proposal. We tweaked it a little, but, and we
And when
got
I
it
say
done.
that, I will mean that.
And we appreciate that. I mean, and I think you'll hear us be the same way. We'll be straight.
Sure.
So what I think on wages, you'll hear from us on December 7th and maybe even the Friday before.
Yeah, we'll try to have it done before.
We may do a 1-year proposal and a 3-year, or 1 year and say we'll leave wages +1 or wages +2, or wages +2 to be determined between the parties so that it doesn't open up everything potentially. Does that sound good to everybody?
Sounds good.
Is there something that we can put in the contract? I understand Florida Healthcare this year said they were not having any premium raises. Is that right?
That's correct.
Is there something that we can put in the contract to, lock us in? Because we get a raise and that's all great.
Yeah, well,
And then they raise the healthcare and there goes my raise, the raise and what they cover gets lower every year as well.
Put something in there and we'll look at it.
We'll write that in.
So something tied
For
to
this year, I'm
insurance.
sure we could look at something like that.
Right.
Beyond that, I don't know.
When does open enrollment start again and the possible?
So we just finished open enrollment, they did finish their selections by last Friday, and it's effective January 1st.
So there should be no rate increases.
Right, if it's this year, there's really no.
Right.
Okay.
If it's
But you're saying that's the
if it's
risk of a multi-year.
contract, then that's
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's unfortunately the nature of insurance companies, right? As we know. Okay. Is there anything further you need from us? I know we're going to get a Word version and a.
we already got it.
Okay, thank you. Thank
It
you for
doesn't have
sending
page numbers on it.
Okay.
Before, yeah.
So-
Well, if it's
Fine.
Numbers, but you guys
That's
get
all right,
it.
we can
We can
it.
add page numbers.
Yeah.
So the
I
plan
can
is
figure it out.
on December 7th, we're going to meet at 9:30. And our intent is hopefully to have something back from you. And
Yeah.
can we put like side-to-side stuff up there? Is it fancy? We can maybe even do that. Yeah, and try to work to see if we can't either reach an agreement or get as close to it as we can.
That sounds fair
You good
enough.
with that? We are too.
December 7th, the day which will live in
All right.
infamy.
Yeah, that's right. We're 7th. All right, gang.
Matt, thank you. Sorry about the Drew. I swear to you, I do deal with the Drew.
Hopefully everybody's sticking around and not traveling over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you guys have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, stay safe.
Yes, thank you. You too. Not going up to North Carolina.